Yeah, and I think the main difference between the mobile games that I have disdain for and the games I love is the intentionality. Like I love a game where somebody had a vision and they're like, I want to bring this to life because I think it's cool.
Totally.
Maybe I'll make some money. Like, this is a product, but like the main thing is I have a cool idea and I want to make a world that someone can inhabit. A lot of these mobile games is just, well, how can we get someone addicted and take their money?
Yeah, and I'm not someone to stand on a mountaintop and be holier than thou in anything. I think don't hate the player, hate the game is a very important statement for people to have. YUNKJunk! Hey everybody, welcome to Tubby Talk with Terry and Chris, where we're going to talk all about mobile games. But before we get there, let us tell you something about an event that occurred because Tubby Talk had their first, not Tubby Talk, Tubby Robot had their first big event involving gaming, if I believe. Is that correct?
That's right. On Saturday, we had the inaugural Smash Yunkers.
Yeah.
It was awesome. We basically had over 100 people show up to play games and watch the games. It was at Venice Island on the big stage. It was an awesome environment. It was great. I was so nervous about it. I've never done anything like that before, but once people showed up, it got rolling. They had a lot of fun, and people were like, well, when's the next one? I don't know. But we'll probably do something fun like that again.
How soon do you think? Do you think this is something that is your brain whirring with like quarterly?
I mean, I think there's demand to do something like that quarterly. So. I think there's a lot of room for other games. Mm-hmm. And what we've been hearing, people really love the idea of doing a Mario Kart tournament.
Oh.
People love the idea of doing a Tetris tournament, which I think would be pretty bonkers.
That's all ages, too. That'd be fun. Yeah. I mean, it's all ages, but I'm just thinking that Tetris might bring in a different crowd. That's cool.
Yeah, so we're trying to get, things that a lot of people can get into. But yeah, just having a competition, like, I don't often play games in like a competitive setting, and seeing it happen, like, there were some good competitors. The people at the end, like the finals, it was like chills watching it. Like, these people were so good. They did things with King DDD I did not know were possible.
Wow.
It was awesome.
I think my favorite thing was seeing that you had like a little awards ceremony.
Yeah.
Tell me about what the trophies and medals were.
Well, so the trophies, we had a bronze, silver, and gold Tubby that my wife, Kelly, she designed them and printed them all on her 3D printer at home.
Wow.
And she spent a lot of time on it. It was great because I was so worried. It's something I wanted to do, but I got this scooping injury and I couldn't use my mouse arm. So I was like, dang, and then she picked up the slack. They came out awesome. Like, seeing Tubby, it's the first time I've seen him in 3D.
Really?
Yeah. So seeing like those little trophies, he looks exactly like I expected. It's like, oh my God, it's like he's real.
We'll definitely splice some pictures into this so that people can see, because it was so cool to see, 3 winners on stage.
Yeah.
I loved your setup too. What was the actual setup? It looked like 4 gaming areas?
Yeah, we had 4 competition stations on the stage, and then behind them was a giant projector screen that had one of the stations on, and all the big games you got to see on the big screen.
Fantastic.
But then behind that, off stage, we had like a casual gaming station where people could just go and play, hang out. And I brought a big old box of 100 soft pretzels from Tasty Twisters down the street. So there's snacks. People had a lot of fun.
What is Tasty Twisters?
They are a soft pretzel factory on Umbria.
What?
Yeah, they're really close.
Why hasn't anyone told me?
I don't know. Now I'm telling you.
Good. Get yourself a Tasty Twist sometimes, Maniac. They're sponsoring this episode, apparently. All right, so we're going to get into the meat of it. We wanted to talk about mobile games. And at first, when you brought this up, I was a little bit like, well, I think I kind of miss mobile games, but we found out maybe I didn't.
Yes.
Maybe I just am not in the current area of mobile games. So let me ask you, when you hear mobile game, what do you think of?
I think of vomiting violently into a toilet. Personally. It's something like, they say things are near and dear to your heart. This is far and spiky from my heart. I hate everything about it, to be honest.
Why?
First of all, I hate mobile phones.
Okay.
I hated cell phones before there were smartphones. I'm like, I don't want people to contact me wherever I am all the time. Buzzing. I hate it. But now the smartphone makes it 1,000 times worse. I think it's bad for us. It's bad for society. I think it's bad for me. And I hate them and things that make me use it more and touch the screen. I hate capacitive touch as an interface. I think it's a horrible interface.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're coming in hot today. I like it.
Yeah. I don't have strong feelings on a lot of things, but man, do I hate the screens.
Now, everything I've heard so far is a hatred of phone.
Yes.
Which is fair. I think, unless you're one of our viewers, you should, probably limit your screen time, except for exclusively to watch this show, right? But I have not heard venom from you on the actual games.
Right.
Do you also take umbrage with the games?
Well, to be honest, I haven't played a ton of the games on a smartphone. In fact, I don't know that I've ever installed a game on my smartphone.
Wow.
I did not have a capacitive touch screen phone until about 2 years ago.
You're kidding me.
Yeah. Before that, I was rocking a BlackBerry still.
Really?
Yes. And that even, I was like, I only did that when we were building Tubby because the contractors all texted. And I was like, well, on my flip phone, texting is very annoying. At least this has buttons. Okay, cool.
Wait. So you've been on a dumb phone?
I've been up until 2 years ago. Yeah.
And 2 years ago, you got a BlackBerry?
No, I was on a BlackBerry until 2 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And then 2 years ago, I got a very old Android phone, which I have a Google Pixel 2, which apparently is quite old.
Are you against messaging from a computer?
No, I mean, messing with the computer's fine. It's not with
messaging.
Me. Yeah, messaging.
Okay.
Totally fine. Yeah.
It's just you don't want it on your person.
Don't want it on my person.
There's studies about that.
Yeah.
There's a book called Coddling the American Mind by Jonathan Haidt. I think Jonathan Haidt, Haidt. And basically it shows, well, we're getting into a deep topic on
I think we should.
But basically it shows that it wasn't necessarily the dawn of the phone where children started to have rates for self-harm and things like that. But it was when social media was available on the phone, meaning you can't escape. So exactly what you're talking about. You can't escape from social media interaction, that's when things of like depression and other unfortunate events like skyrocketed.
Yeah.
And you can literally pinpoint it to when it was available on a smartphone.
Yeah, and you can't disconnect.
Nope.
I mean, you can, but you don't. You're not incentivized to do so. And I think we've kind of voluntarily given ourselves like this form of ADHD.
Sure.
Where it's like, you're bored unless something is buzzing you every few seconds. And
I'll be honest, if it wasn't for a couple of like books and like having a genuine interest in entrepreneurship and personal development and stuff like that, if it wasn't for those books, I probably would be in that trap of I have to respond to everything as it comes in, and my virtual life is more important than my real life. But I just got real lucky that I read certain things that said limit screen time at the time. And the point was limit screen time so you can work on building your business or building your body or building your mind.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, oh my God, there's a bunch of people who didn't read those books.
Yeah. Well,
and they're addicts.
It's amazing to watch because as an entrepreneur, you need to work a lot. You need to think about your business a lot.
Sure.
And I have a lot of people who go like, oh, how do you run a business like without a smartphone? I'm like, how do you run a business with one? Like, Jesus Christ.
Let me ask, this is a little off topic. What's your daily routine, and when does a phone or a computer come into it?
So it does. It's my personal alarm to wake up.
Okay.
So the alarm goes off. I grumble at it. I hit snooze once, stop, and then I don't touch it until like I'm done getting ready. I put it in my pocket grudgingly every morning. Yeah. I go out, and it's a good day if I wake up and there's nothing on it. I'm like, great. The blank screen is beautiful, and I have no pictures on the screen on the front. It's just a blank blue, and if it's still a blank blue, I'm a happy camper.
Yeah.
The second there's a little white icon on it, I feel my ire start to rise.
When do you look at it? Do you have a time that you look at it?
When it buzzes me. Hate it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you're still responsive to it.
Well, the thing is, like, it'll buzz, and I'll get aggravated, and I'll be super aggravated if I'm somewhere where I can't, like, I'm driving. I will not touch the phone when I'm driving.
Good for you.
But it goes off, and I'm like, well, if this is important, somebody should have called me with their mouth. But it's still in the back of my head, like, oh, someone's expecting me to get back to them. I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. So it's just kind of like on demand. But then there's a lot of times where like I'm in the kitchen a lot, walking around, I don't feel it. Like if somebody's messaging
That's
me,
true.
I don't
Especially
get it.
if you use an apron pocket.
Yeah, and so hours later, I was like, oh, someone sent me a text 6 hours ago. I'll be like, okay, hope this wasn't timely.
Yeah.
But basically, yeah, like if you want to get in touch with me, either call me with your mouth, send me an email, and I'll get back to you. Texts make me very angry for whatever reason.
Interesting. See, I'm such a texter.
And most of my friends are.
Because it doesn't require all of my time. You know, I am definitely the kind of person who embraces convenience, even when it's like at the detriment of other things. Like I do very much want to live a convenient life. I also know my phone's on snooze till 9 a.m. So I know whatever I'm getting done that day, the real important stuff, I have to have it done before 9 because there's literally a ticking clock before I'm allowed to use my phone. Now I'll use my phone for podcasts or music or Audible or something like that when I'm doing my morning, workouts or whatever. But once I'm actually in my work mode, which like I'm obsessed with people's work schedules and things like that. I'm up 30-minute walk and then 90-minute block and not even allowing music during that time. I have to. That's full focus mode.
Yeah.
My phone will destroy that. So if I get up later in the day and that snooze comes off, then 9 to 10:30, it's too late. I'm getting interrupted. I got interrupted this morning by clients and stuff, and I was like, damn it, I was almost at the end, but I can't write, I can't think, I can't do stuff without it.
For a loop. Yeah, and you need, I don't know about you, but like I find if I'm doing work, like brain work, and I need to think, like if I'm doing programming or something,
yeah,
I need at least 2 hours. No one's contacting me. Like I need that block because it takes me like 20 minutes to a half hour just to get in the right mindset to start producing. You start and you're like, let me get my stuff together. Your brain's just not ready for it.
Yeah, classic flow state.
Yes.
And believe me, I interrupt these guys all the time when they're editing. And now I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I'm going to really try not to be in the office until noon. Because, I'm doing stuff. But for that exact reason, if I am interrupting someone's flow state, I'm really, it's a problem for their productivity. But I also am not giving them a chance to have their flow state, to actually get the things done I need to get done.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch I answer so many questions throughout the day that aren't about getting the thing done, and usually could be resolved if we just get the thing done. There's so much back and forth, in my world, especially with like edits and stuff. So I removed myself from it because it was so distracting. I couldn't do the pro business things because I was getting backlogged in edit requests. And these guys are much better at it than I am anyway.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, what do you mean? Everything we turned in was perfect.
Right. And I think that, though, is a very disciplined way of looking at compared to the average American right now, which is just like, oh, it's a distraction device and they welcome the distraction. Like you see it like, oh, like I'm in the middle of my day is drudgery. Oh, I got a little something just over and over again. Yeah, I think it's bad for us.
Well, you're in the service industry too, and when I was, there weren't phones.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, if there's not an actual customer, you pull out your phone instead of like cleaning something or checking things or something. That just must be a nightmare nowadays. I mean, when I was 16, I didn't have one.
Yeah.
So like I couldn't do that. I was actively looking of how can I do something? How can I be productive? Whereas now, most people, I bet, are on mobile games.
Yeah, and mobile games. One of the reasons I don't have any installed, like they don't appeal to me because they're distraction devices, right?
Yeah.
And they basically the first thing they ask you to do is like, hey, let me notify you when you're not in the game. Do I want the game to be begging for my attention when I'm not in the game? No. I do not want that.
It's also wild that, and we know this, structurally they are designed to keep, every app is designed to keep you inside the app for as long as possible. That's the point of them. You call it nefarious or not, it's just scientifically speaking, an engineer was given a problem. The problem was people aren't staying on the app long enough, and they fixed it. And they fixed it so good that they have created wild windfalls of income for things that are largely in social media and then gaming, right? And they do this by, like you said, notifications, but also by making something genuinely addicting. And I have a theory. I think it didn't work on you and I because the games that we grew up with had so much in them. The quality was at such a level and the story was at such a level that I will not be tempted by this lesser thing. It doesn't have an army of writers and teams of writers. It has people who are figuring out like, okay, if we make them this color, it'll be more attractive. And if we make this sound, it'll be more interesting. And if we notify every 10 minutes, that'll be different than if we notify every 2 seconds. It's a different thought. Whereas for me, it's like, I'm all in on a quality game if it's a quality game. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
What do you think of that theory?
I think there's some merit to that.
Yeah.
Because we know, like, if I'm playing a video game, I want it to be fun. I want it to be engaging, have its own fun loop. And I don't necessarily want to be... the way a lot of these work is that there's an energy system where, okay, you can play this for 10 minutes and then you're out of energy and you got to wait till the next day or pay money. And that's most mobile games.
Yeah.
And that it's very frustrating. Like, if I'm playing a game I want to play it.
Yeah.
Like, let me play it through. And these are more like, oh, this is something to get you through your bus ride, and then we want you to spend money on it. But there's a lot of people who played games who still play a lot of mobile games. They play video games and they still get sucked into it. So it's hard to say. The thing is, like, people thought that the gaming industry was going to be wildly disrupted by mobile games.
That's true.
And I remember 10 years ago, people were like, hey, Nintendo, you're going to go the way of the dodo if you don't get in on these mobile games, because that's the future. Like, there aren't going to be consoles anymore. It's just going to be mobile games, because why would you want to have 2 devices when you can have 1 device?
Yep.
But that has not come to pass.
Yeah, I mean, that was back in Xbox 360 and or maybe Xbox One and PS4, where it's like, it's going to be one thing where it's going to be the your entertainment console.
Yeah.
Right? And it'll be, this is the thing that you use all the time. And it was the same with, but what kind of intercepted that was phones. And it's like, no, well, actually, and we have trends to show this, actually the phone is going to be the spot. But Nintendo, I feel like they did it reluctantly, but they did it in a different way.
Yeah, they only did it because their shareholders and the market at large was like, hey, it's going to be mobile games. You got to have your foot in there. And they reluctantly did, and to varying degrees of success. But I think it also showed that the market, like, Nintendo makes great, well-crafted games.
Yeah.
There's not a market for that on phones.
Exactly. But they tried, and they tried with Super Mario Run.
Yes.
So this was, now I don't think this was the first phone game that came out. I'll get to it in a minute. And I can't believe I didn't think to tell Dylan to look it up before, because it's a massive thing. But I remember this came out, and I was like, you know what? That looks like Nintendo.
Yeah.
That looks like Mario. That looks like Bowser. This looks like a real game. What they cleverly did is they made it so it's not a Mario game, but it kind of is. But it's also very similar to games I loved, which were free Java games on computers when you and I were, middle school, high school age.
Yeah.
And there was a thing called Endless Runner.
Yeah.
Nintendo cleverly made an Endless Runner that brought, their mascot character in, but didn't make it where you need a control, a controller to have it be true Mario. So some of us were left a little bit like, I wish there was more, but I get it.
Yeah, I mean, this is playing to the strengths of the system it's on, the system being the phone. You can't, there's no D-pad or control stick on a phone. Like, all you got is the big screen, and anything you do on it, when you put your thumb on the phone, it blocks part of the screen.
Yeah.
So you can't have some big elaborate control, although a lot of people try.
Funny. I never thought of that.
Yeah, a lot of people try. But this is just like, oh, you tap. And it totally makes sense. Like, this is the sort of thing that they experimented on with the DS, with the touch screen on that, which they did well before smartphones. Mm-hmm. And they did some pretty fun stuff on that. But they're all like kind of like little fun distractions.
And it's also interesting to say mobile gaming, because to me, mobile means on the go, but they're using it as the literal term of like, I'll call you on my mobile.
Yeah, a mobile phone.
But Game Boy was mobile gaming.
Yeah. Your Tiger handheld.
Yeah. But to us, I think this is the best example of how far you can push something while honoring the limitations of the platform, because this is ultimately an advertisement to go get a Wii and play new Super Mario Brothers.
Right.
Or Super Mario Wonder at this time.
And what's interesting about this game is that it's basically considered a financial failure. It did not do nearly as well as they had hoped it would.
Really?
And that is chalked up largely to the business model. So this was a game that you spent money for ahead. and then you play the game. And I believe it was $5. It was some single-digit number of bucks.
But it wasn't $1.99. It was $5.99.
Yeah, it was $5.99. And I remember people were like, well, that's too much money. That's too expensive for.
And I was like, no, that's
just
worth
like,
it.
if you want to play a video game and you're not willing to spend $5, you don't want a very good video game.
Yeah.
Like, this is a Super Mario game. Like,
Right.
you know, I could very easily see.
Yeah, the 90s
$5.
rentals were $5.
But at the time, you know, and still, freemium was the name of the game.
Yes.
It's like, well, you download it for free. I don't want to spend any money. I want to be gouged later for the money. Basically, Nintendo was like, we trust people to be smart enough about their money to understand that you pay up front and that's all you're going to pay, and it's not a gacha game where, you know, it's asking you for microtransactions. It's like, no, you just own the game. And they're like, well, that's a big mistake. No one's going to buy that.
That's right. That's right. And also those who did, it was one time. All of these other mobile games, it is constant. And actually, Dylan, could you pull up that South Park? There's a South Park episode about mobile games that is so good. I think it's all the way on the right, the tab. Yeah. So, and you don't even have to go anywhere. So this is hilarious. So the idea was, you know, Terrence and Phillip from South Park fame were having a game made after them, and they were being pitched by these companies, and they couldn't understand because they're like, well, yeah, we had a game back in the day, and we didn't like it because it wasn't really our likeness and whatnot, but we made money on it. And then they're saying, but no, that's not what you want to do. You want freemium games. And what they have up there is freemium is Latin for, mium is Latin for not really.
Yeah.
So not really free. But it was a really funny episode because, you know, the South Park guys at the time were making Stick of Destiny or Stick of Truth or whichever one it was. They were making one of their first good games where they were involved in all of the setup.
Yeah.
And creation, and they were mocking these freemium games, basically saying it's the work of the devil. In that, in the piece, it's ultimately that the American devil, the regular devil, goes after the Canadian devil because he thinks this is worse than anything he could possibly do to someone, and that it's just disgusting. Because part of it, and they pick on it in there, is retention and addiction. It's a really real thing, and like, it feels funny to talk about this. Everybody said we were going to get addicted to video games and stuff. It was our parents that got addicted to it.
Our parents and our children.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, which is upsetting.
Probably concerning.
Yeah. I mean, fortunately, it's not been an issue for my kids yet. We're trying to push off the phone thing till as far in the future as possible.
Well, it helps that their dad hates phones.
Yeah.
It'd be different if you were. So, and you bring up a great point, because if we could look at Candy Crush, to me, this is the big one that robbed people of their lives. I don't understand it. I literally have never played the game. I know nothing about it, but I know that I have an aunt who has logged hundreds of hours into this.
Thousands,
it would be
probably.
probably thousands. It would be very difficult for her to tell her child, you can't have a phone, when she melts into the couch for 4 hours a night on the phone playing a game where nothing good happens.
Yeah.
That's what I don't understand. There's not an end. I still don't understand games without ending, unless they're multiplayer.
Well,
is this multiplayer?
I'm not sure. I
just know a lot of people talk about that they get like a Candy Crush, I don't know, golden medal or something like that, and you're acting like that's a Mensa degree or something. It's Candy Crush.
Well,
you got addicted for long enough. You know what it is? It's Camel Cash. Remember Camel Cash for Camel cigarettes?
Well, there is no end to slot machines, and there's no end to, video poker. It's the same sort of thing. It's hitting the same dopamine rush in your brain. Like,
how?
Well,
how? I don't understand. I mean, God bless the engineers who figured it out and exploited it and made lots of money. Good for you guys. But how do people fall for?
Well, have you ever been to a casino?
I have, I guess, and I still don't understand it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you sit there and you watch, and you're like, how long you been here? Like, since 7 a.m.
Yeah.
Like, okay. How many days have you been here? Like,
it's true.
Yeah.
It is kind of bizarre. And I think that's what it mostly is to me. But Candy Crush is the one that I bring up because that's, I think, the most popular one ever that I know of that your parents got addicted to, right? And it just doesn't seem as fun as Tetris on Game Boy.
Well, and I mean, it depends, right? It comes, for us, Tetris on Game Boy is classic.
Yeah.
somebody just coming up maybe is like, well, that's kind of antiquated. Look at these nice round edges. This is what I associate with my adolescence.
Yeah.
You know, another Angry Birds.
Yeah.
Was huge cultural phenomenon, right?
There's 2 movies.
There's 2 movies. They've had, lots of tens of games maybe. And all it was, was flicking birds out of a slingshot. Mm-hmm. Seeing what happens. It's a physics game, right?
Yeah.
But this was huge, and people were like, yay. Rovio was like, people think of Mario now. This is going to be what people think of 20 years down the line.
Good God.
Didn't happen, right? So it stopped.
Yeah, I mean, so what was the ending? Why?
Well, the ending, so the real reason with Rovio, they never really got into the social element nearly as much as some of the other people. Mm-hmm. Another
What does that mean by social element? Like posting your score or
posting your score, just having it tied into like your Facebook or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, Instagram and Facebook integrations. Yeah.
I mean, you think about things like that. Separate social games. You think of things like Farmville.
Yeah.
Do you remember Farmville?
I do remember Farmville. I think there was like a business film. Oh my God. I distinctly remember a friend's mom running to the computer and saying, I have to go check in at the widget factory.
Yeah.
I don't know what game that was, but that was absolutely a 50-year-old woman who was addicted to gaming later in life, who told, the same person who told us not to sit too close to the TV while playing Nintendo.
Exactly.
It is amazing.
It is. And it really shows that a lot of these things are universal, right? These brainstem hacking sort of like mechanics, they get. I mean, we've been addicted to games. Like, I'm sure but you and I have sat down, probably played a game longer than we should have, right?
Sure.
At some point in our lives. But this, like, it wasn't the habitual, like, no matter what, you'll get to the end of a game, like a standard game. And you're like, good. I'm done. I played Legend of Zelda to its completion. I'm done with the game. These games don't have an end. It just keeps going.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. And I guess I don't even understand the idea of playing something that doesn't have an ending. So, for example, I was also not co-opted by World of Warcraft or anything like that.
Yeah.
Where, again, it was just a different kind of thing. And I suppose the games themselves, if the idea wasn't to go to the right and jump over things, I wasn't as interested.
Yeah.
That's what I don't understand. We talked about in our last episode, punching trees.
Yes.
In Pal World. So, how did you get people to perceive that as fun? That is something I really don't understand. How an average person hates their job. Average person who hates their job is playing a game that's essentially a job.
Right.
That's insane to me. How does one addict one to, I want to know that just professionally. How do I take people to that work?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is something that's been happening a long time. You think of something like SimCity, right? It's a city management game. I think it's lots of fun. I used to have tons of fun building cities, but it's basically work, right?
Yeah, it is.
I want this to be commercial, this to be residential, but there was something...
And here's a scary monster.
There was something appealing to setting something up and seeing how it worked. And it's like, all right, I built this city. I think it's great. Let's see if people come.
Yeah.
Like, oh, people aren't coming. Why aren't they coming? Oh, I need to add a park. All right, I'll add a park. Oh, there's crime. I have to add a police station. And so there was this maintenance that was compelling, I think. And I think a lot of this stuff plays into that similar sort of that idea of something that needs you back.
Yeah.
Like, that's compelling.
It's probably a combination between, jingle jangle, let's get into your dopamine receptor, and also you can be proud of this thing you have. It's like, I want to have the best lawn in the neighborhood, but now it's I want to have the best lawn in the digital world.
Yeah.
Right? I think The Sims might have a lot to do with it. I remember The Sims took hold of a non-gamer audience.
Yes.
I think before anything else. Which came from SimCity.
Yeah, The Sims made by Maxis, the same company. And a lot of those games, like you could be like, The Sims, I played a little bit when it first came out, and that was one of the first games I was like, this makes me depressed.
Yes.
This is just my life. I should clean the trash in my real life.
Exactly.
I should do the dishes in my real life.
Yeah.
Mow the lawn. Why am I doing it in a video game? It takes about as long in that game.
It's got to just be, what was that? Other Life or Other World?
It was Second Life.
Second Life.
Yeah.
That was the one where I was like, okay, something's going on. Yeah. Like, I think, and I, this is going to be a heavier episode, but I think the majority of Americans are depressed. I think that, and I think they are looking to escape into a fantasy world. And I think maybe it's just that I'd rather an easier route to the fantasy world where I can turn my brain off than something like a Legend of Zelda where my brain has to be on and I can't fully disappear because something will come and kill me.
Yeah.
You know, it's got to be something related to that.
Well, and I think there's something compelling to having a simpler world, a simpler system, right? It's like, hey, I know how to fix these problems in this game world. You know, there's a problem. I know the solution. Great. I add a police station. The crime goes down. Done. It's not like that in the real world, right? You got more complex problems with people and different people with different personalities meshing and clashing, and that's complicated.
Well, you see this on a societal level is you know, I consider myself an internet person, but I'm not addicted to it or deep in the trenches as some are. But I'm aware of certain trends on the internet. And one big one is there's a tendency of good guys and bad guys. Mm-hmm. We in the real world know that there's really nuance.
Yes.
But they want good guys and bad guys. You know, if you're a red bird and you want to see pigs, you know, you don't let that apply to the real world, but it is easier because it's simpler. It's like, oh, I'll give you an example. Like, you can be a good father and a jerk in the office.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't negate you being a good father.
Right.
You know, and like there's things like that. But in this, it would be, oh, that's a piggy. Well, what if that jerk in the office is raising, you know, a child with cancer?
Yeah.
You know, is that a piggy? You know,
like that pig had a family.
Exactly. It did. But that's my point. I think there is a desire for simplicity. Probably an over desire for simplicity, but challenge is hard. I get that.
Yeah.
But I think I was just always, I don't know. I think we're also kind of lucky that we dodged this thing of like, it wasn't, you know, your children could be exposed to it. But I feel like we weren't really exposed to predatory gaming.
Not
as
much.
A word?
Yeah. But I think our peers are largely like, and by peers I mean people our ages.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people my ages who, you know, get stuck in these games.
Yeah.
Or if sometimes
there's some freemium Marvel game that's out that all my friends are addicted to right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, some people play it a distressing number of years, right? And, you know, really gaming's so broad now. It's great that everyone's got their own niche. Mm-hmm. This seems more predatory. You talk about things like World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft, you know, some would see that as predatory, but I also know a lot of people who forge real communities and connections with human beings through it. Like, it was not just a game. It was also a messaging system. It was a way to meet people and play with people, and
you knew the people who were downhill. For me, you know, that was a big college game where like you just wouldn't see someone. They would just stop coming to class because they were playing things. Like that's a different level of addiction. But I don't think World of Warcraft, I could be wrong, I don't think World of Warcraft had people working on how do we get people to pay for more stuff and stay in this world? How do we get you to dissociate? I think people just dissociated naturally. Like the ones who are going to do that through comic books or whatever other medium of whatever, you know, the evil thing in the world is, they would do that anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't think there were people at Blizzard, correct me if I'm wrong, that were actively trying to be like, stay on the platform. You need nothing but this platform. All you need is World of Warcraft.
Well, I'm sure, maybe not to that degree,
right?
But they definitely wanted to keep their engagement up. Like they want people to pay their monthly fee, and that's the way World of Warcraft worked. It was a subscription.
Oh, it was a subscription. I didn't know that.
You paid every month, and as long as you keep paying every month, Blizzard's happy. And if they can keep doing whatever they can do to make that happen, it's great. They didn't have at least early on, much in the way of like microtransactions.
Yeah.
I'm sure later on they're like, you have to pay for some kind of skins or something.
Yeah.
People go bonkers for skins in every game.
I don't get that at all.
I don't get it either. But it's huge. It's huge. Like billions of dollars are made by single companies on skins.
Fortnite skins.
Like I buy the skin. Like no one cares what you look like but you.
It's very weird.
Yeah.
But also I think it's the idea of, I don't believe this, but I think it's the idea of all I will ever be able to afford is things in the digital world because I am not ever going to make it in the real world. Yes, you will. You'll make it in the real world. I promise. If you try, I promise you will make it. But when you're a kid, that might be true. Your parents might control every part of your life, but it's like, but you know what? I get to wear the tiger sneakers when I'm out there killing people in Call of Duty.
Yeah.
You know, it could be something like that, except There's too many old people involved in this for that to be true. I mean, God, is it cigarettes? It's cigarettes.
I mean,
mobile gaming is cigarettes.
Mobile gaming is cigarettes without the lung cancer. It's just
brain cancer.
It might be worse.
It might be worse.
Like the lung cancer.
You don't even get to look cool.
The lung cancer is going to kill you.
Yeah.
But at least your brain still works.
That's
the
right.
whole way through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is a tough one. So, here's the thing, though. Mobile games didn't start this way. Mobile games did not start with the freemium model. Someone figured that out, and like all good things, pushed it too far. However, I hold no ill will because I still will always say you choose the games you want to play. No one came to your house.
You have free will.
They kind of did.
They kind of
did come into your house and install themselves on your.
Oh yeah, you got a new phone
God,
and it's like, hey, Candy Crush. Candy Crush comes pre-installed on a lot of things.
Wait, what was the other one? Plants vs. Zombies? No.
Well, that's one of them, but
there was one that showed up on Facebook and it was alarming. Was it Farmville?
Well, Farmville was huge. There's Clash of Clans. There's all those like
that one. That's the first one I remember with huge advertising dollars.
Yeah.
Clash of Clans. But I distinctly remember getting like it might have been like, no, it was after AIM, but it was Facebook. On Facebook, people posting about their stats on a game. I'd never seen that before. And it was a stupid game.
Yeah.
Games being stupid or not, I don't think is a warranted discussion. But it was a game that was too simple to keep my attention. There we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's kind of when it changed because it's when you get the normies. If you figure out how to get the normies, you're going to make a lot of money. Well, and you'll exploit the normies.
Here's a question to you. So
get that on a T-shirt. Exploit the normies.
Nintendo started dabbling with that sort of thing with the DS and the Wii. There were games like Nintendogs. Which was all about taking care of a virtual puppy. Mm-hmm. And you would pet the puppy and feed the puppy right. It was like it was a virtual pet. They had Brain Age, which was, hey, here, answer a whole bunch of simple questions, and we'll train you, and maybe your brain will get more acuity.
I could take a minute on Brain Age because I got Brain Age, and I liked the idea of Brain Age because this was a game that you played that would make you smarter, that would increase your acuity, and things of that nature. And I remember, I think this is the one I was trying to think of it. I remember hearing Miyamoto talking about, I would love a game specifically to play on the train that enhances your experience or like that gets you prepped to go into work.
Right.
It was something like that. And I don't know if it was actually his game, but I thought that game was really cool. And that game legitimately got me addicted to math and learning and simple things. Much like a Sudoku took over the world.
Yeah.
See,
I feel like a Sudoku, it's more satisfying than any of these like gotcha mobile games.
I agree.
Because you're just, I figured it out. I figured out a puzzle. Dopamine hit. Good. I feel smart. You do another one, but they're all different.
But eventually your recall ability does increase. You do get a measured benefit from playing certain puzzle games.
Yeah.
This is not that. This is not that. But anyway, I when I think of mobile games, I like to go back and think of a mobile game was something on a mobile phone. That's kind of what we define it as.
Yeah.
But to me, I'm going to choose to define it as a mobile game was a game that you could play that was not on a system designed for gaming. So it's not on a computer and it's not on
a Game Boy.
It's not on a peripheral. This blew my damn mind was when Super Mario came out for the TI-84. We all had to get these calculators in order to, I think it was for like algebra or
it was for algebra, trig, and geometry.
Trig, that's what it was for. And all of a sudden, I distinctly remember looking over and seeing someone playing on their phone. Or not playing on their phone, excuse me. This is on the calculator, like doing a lot of, and I'm like, what are they possibly doing? And I look over and they're playing this. Someone developed Mario Brothers for the calculator.
Yeah.
That exploded my mind. I knew of gaming, but I didn't know you could do this. This changed like everything for me because now math was fun, but
it was fun to ignore it.
It was fun to ignore. And I just couldn't believe that is what I love so much about our group of people is like, we'll do anything, we'll learn anything in order to not do the thing we're supposed to do and instead play games. The amount of engineering that went into this, like probably just a couple of people went all in on like, I don't want to do math so bad, I'm going to learn math to create a game on my calculator.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that. I love that. That's American spirit right there.
See, and I'm a little jealous of this because in my year, we had a TI-82. Could not do that. The 84, that's pixel art. It's great. It looks wonderful. I would love. The cool thing about these calculators,
I might have had a TI-83. Now that you say that, I think I had an 83.
Yeah, I had an 82, which was it was not capable of these sorts of things.
Yeah,
but there were still games on it, and the cool thing about them was like we would trade them with a link cable. It was a headphone jack that went to the headphone jack on the other one. You would transfer what you transferred was the code for the game. It wasn't compiled. This was just it was inherently open source. So you could open the program and change it very easily. Like this was written in a form of BASIC. So it was all like very readable. And I remember
not like before Visual Basic is BASIC.
Yeah, so BASIC is kind of a computer language that's been adapted and shifted over time, and Visual Basic is Microsoft's take on that.
Okay.
But people would write this in the calculator. Like you had a alphanumeric keyboard, and you basically like I remember going to some of these games and modding them because it was very easy.
Wow.
We had all the games on the TI-82 had to be done with ASCII art, so it was basically letters and numbers flying around.
Can you type in ASCII art?
Yeah, it's basically when you try to make things that look like graphics with just letters and numbers. And you can do a lot with that. So it looks like this guy.
Jeez. Is this ASCII art?
No. If we look up, I don't even know. It's ASCII, which it looks like they're doing, creating ASCII art there. And so you see that there. There we go.
Okay.
They took that ramen bowl and made it out of characters.
Yep. Oh man, I remember this.
Of course, the resolution was much smaller on the calculator.
Yeah.
So it'd be like your race car was an 8.
Yeah.
And the sides were like brackets, and you had to like race the car through the brackets.
Yeah, your wheels were always just zeros.
Yep.
Or O's.
Yep.
Lowercase O.
There was this game that we played a bunch. It was called Race when we got it, and it was just a vertically scrolling racing game.
I remember that. Oh my God, I remember
You remember that? Okay.
TI-83 race?
Yeah, race. And the thing is, I think everyone in every school had a slightly different version of this game because people would make mods to, especially the text. There'd be messages when you died, when you started the game. I remember we would laugh every time when you died in this game.
The one all the way at the top.
When you died, the version we had would go, "Oh God, Jimmy, no!" every time you died. And we've had that was a quote from Independence Day when Will Smith's partner gets shot down. Oh God, Jimmy, no! But yeah, see, that's the code to the game right there. And
maybe earlier in the video they actually show the game,
or maybe it's funny.
Yeah, there it is.
So yeah, it's kind of like race right there. Very simple. You're just trying and crash. Yeah, it
crashed.
Crash.
I remember this.
But you can change that. You just go in the code, change. Even if you don't know anything about programming, you can find the English and just, I'll change that from crash to
That's true.
Curse words, right?
Yeah,
of course, curse words.
Of course.
Play and quit, yeah. So these were great. Like, it's my first experience with, like, homebrew games.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I think I remember, like, PC I remember freeware, like, those games. I remember specifically there was a game called Mortal Wombat.
Yeah.
That was kind of the first game where I remember I was like, oh, somebody just made this. Somebody just made this like weird game. And it kind of gets into my love of like Mugen games because that's all homebrew too. But yeah, I mean, knowing that people made games. I mean, the first game, the ski game on Microsoft.
Yeah, Ski Free.
Like that's one of the first games. But then there was also Jez Ball that was on there. But I think this applies to you. I distinctly remember a game on the Blackberries.
Yeah.
And people got addicted to a game called Brick Breaker.
Yes.
Which This was the first thing I remember. I think they talked about it in like the show Arrested Development. I remember it on TV and in movies, like where executives would be playing Brick Breaker.
Yeah.
Or it'd be like, are you working or are you playing Brick Breaker or something like that. I remember that in the cultural ether. So, for us, I think that, there was something about being a kid and games on the calculator. But I remember when BlackBerry games hit old people.
Yes.
Oh,
it hit them hard.
Yeah.
And that's why they started calling them crackberries, right?
Yeah.
'Cause people would get addicted to them, not only to the messaging, but to this. You'd play a game, and this was actually really well presented.
Yeah, it's a good looking game.
It looks good, but it plays really well with the little scroll ball.
Oh, because
that is
it
inside.
clicked.
Yeah, well, you got it's the perfect control device for this game, this Breakout clone, this Arkanoid clone.
That's a good point, because in the arcade, it was just a big
It was a trackball.
trackball.
So this is like you have a little trackball in the palm of your hand, and you can play this game. And tons of people did.
Yeah.
I mean, similar to the way that people over many, many decades have been playing solitaire on Windows PCs, right?
It's true.
And even that, they've made freemium.
What?
If you try to play modern day solitaire on a modern day Windows, it's a subscription.
You're kidding me.
I'm not.
For what? A different deck? Different skins?
Yeah, there's different skins in solitaire on the Windows now. It's a mess. You got to pay. I was like, I want animals on the back of my cards. Pay Microsoft.
How? I mean, it was crazy how quick it came. When the freemium model hit, suddenly it was everywhere.
Yeah.
And in everything, including console games. Like, that's the big beef against EA, right? Is that EA Star Wars Battlefront, was all, what is it, loot-based systems? Is that?
Yeah, well, so there's all kinds of gradations in like the microtransactions.
Yeah.
For that, they were under fire because of the loot boxes. And the whole idea of a loot box is that you spend real world money to get a random item. You don't know what the item's going to be.
Ew.
So it'd be like, hey, I really want a Darth Vader helmet. It's like, all right, buy a loot box. Maybe you'll get one. It's like, I didn't get one. Well, buy another one.
Ugh,
all right,
gross.
Well, buy another one. So there's actually been legislation enacted now in many jurisdictions that says that's gambling. You're selling gambling to children. That's illegal. So a lot of games have removed loot boxes because there is let's say a legal gray area around them. It's gambling. You don't know what you're going to get. You're throwing money at it, and some people cannot. You can't stop doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Like their minds won't let them. Like, well, I need the Darth Vader helmet. I got to keep dropping money.
That's pretty gross.
It's very gross.
It's pretty gross.
And that's how like Overwatch worked at least back then. And people really care about those skins, like for whatever reason.
Yeah, that's the big question that I'm going to have after this, that I'm going to do like 9 hours of YouTube research on, is why are people so addicted to skins? What is it about that? Is it that, God, is it identity politics? Is it how important identity has become to people in today's world that they must showcase it anywhere and everywhere? I mean, I guess it's the same as like the guy who always needed his car a different paint job, every year or something like that. But those numbers add up.
Those numbers really add up.
That have you ever heard the Jack Black story?
No.
His son went to the bathroom with his phone and spent $5,000 in freemium transactions and stuff, and was doing it regularly and essentially not knowing. And Jack Black was like, hey, I know I'm in movies and stuff like that, but this is going to be a real problem. Like, we can't keep doing this. So even at like that level.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, it's like, it's children. Do they really know they're spending money? Maybe. Do all of them? I'm not so sure.
I don't know why you would ever allow your children to get linked up to a credit card
That's
like
a good
that.
Point.
Like, you do have some agency in that. You're
That's
like,
a good point.
You gave the kid a credit card, man. I don't know.
That's why my hat's always off to Nintendo. They've always had things like gift cards and packs, and like you as the parent can give them like, okay, here's the $25 thing. When it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
It does not have an auto reload or anything like that. I think Nintendo has always cared more about children than maybe some of the other companies.
I would agree with that. And so some people will say to its detriment, because they'd be
Sure.
like, well, Nintendo's so obtuse and they make everything so hard and this crazy. And They do. It's harder to use. It's hard to use the eShop because you got to crawl through some of these, but there's safeguards.
Yeah.
Right? Like it ensures that your kid isn't going to just, I spent $5,000 on Minecraft or whatever.
But the thing is, you can't stop, and especially because it's on the phone, to get back to kind of that topic, it goes with you. Okay, if I wanted to purchase a video game, I would have to see it in the store, and that would drive me to want to get the game, or see it in a Nintendo Power. There's the only two ways, right? Or play it at a friend's house, and then I might want it and I might ask for it. Your phone is constantly reminding you that you don't have it and that you should have it because cool kids have it. And that must be a nightmare of like, even getting away from something you want is not really an option if you're getting notifications that this new thing just dropped and you're the only one who doesn't have it. This is like Prime energy drink, right? It's all the same stuff. It's all the same of, I am going to be on you all the time because I am in your phone, and I will find my way into your psyche every 15 minutes if you let me.
Yeah.
And if you don't know to turn your notifications off, it'll get there.
Yeah.
But there's free will.
There is.
So ultimately it is, you and parents and...
Well, it's that argument between free will and basically taking advantage of people's proclivities, right?
Yeah.
And some people would argue that, if you have an addictive personality, you may not have that much control over what you do. Like, you have less control.
Yeah.
Now, you still have the agency to turn it off.
Yeah.
But people are like, well, once you're in deep, like, maybe getting to that button, that off button, is much, much harder than it would be for another person.
I think it warrants the idea that perhaps there is like a public health outcry that maybe someone should be going to schools and talking about freemium games.
Yeah.
I honestly think it at least warrants that discussion of, good luck if you're like I said, like if your parents are also addicted to it, good luck. But maybe there should be some sort of service announcement of, games used to do this. Games used to say, hey, it's been an hour. Don't you think you want to take a break?
Yeah.
Well,
maybe we should take a look at this. I know when we were coming up, the war on drugs was a big thing, and everyone's, there were after school specials, and they were in the games. Winners don't do drugs. William H. Sessions, FBI director, right? That sort of thing. Maybe there should be programs at schools now that are like, hey, you should be wary of these things. This should be part of health class, really, like mental health class.
But, that also goes to the idea that all of that information, everything we're saying, is on the internet if you go looking for it.
Yeah.
If you do feel like, hey, I feel like I'm losing my life here. I feel like I'm bored and I'm angry all the time and and this is all I do. If you do search, I'm addicted. Can we try this real quick? Can we search, I think I'm addicted to Candy Crush? Angry Grandpa's addicted to Candy Crush Saga.
2.2 million views.
This might be a joke or something like that.
Yeah.
But this is what we've been talking about. Of like
a regular person.
Yeah, this might be a joke, but the idea that here, go back, Dylan, just to the search results is all I want to see. Why Candy Crush is so addictive. Confessions of a Candy Crush addict. How Candy Crush ruined my life. Like I don't think all of these are jokes.
No.
I think some of this is real, and I think some people actually really did need help when it came to addiction and whatnot with phones. It's a tricky subject.
It is.
I don't think children should play freemium mobile games. I don't know how you enforce anything.
You probably don't enforce it except as a parent.
Yeah.
And you got to be mindful of those things. But yeah, it's hard. Like, the world is more complicated. There's more vectors to get at your kid. Like, people used to be worried, like, oh man, someone's going to jump my kid on the street. Somebody's going to kidnap my kid. But like, if you're giving your kid a phone and a credit card, like, it's an open avenue for so many people from across the world to get at them. Yeah.
I mean, there's some dark stuff.
Yeah, it's dark. It's so depressing.
I understand your rage.
Yeah, I'm very depressed. But I think the thing that I don't get entirely is, after a long day at work, we'll go home. Maybe you watch a movie. Maybe you watch a TV show. put on a video game, make something, do a craft, do a hobby. There are people, I'm sure. But I can't imagine going home being like, I'm going to take out my phone, sit on the couch, and play some Candy Crush.
Well,
I guess that's a thing.
It's a thing. I promise you it's a thing. Yeah. I promise you it's a thing. It's something I'm glad I dodged. But, you know, what I didn't dodge, I definitely didn't dodge, like, the dating app world. And that essentially became a game. Mm-hmm. You know, that is very much treated like a game. And you get likes. And the idea of likes and comments is a bit of a game in itself and addicting, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's a bigger topic, and we're wrapping up now, but I'm wondering, so I haven't done dating apps ever in my life.
Yeah.
The fact of having it in your pocket, how much does that hurt you as a human being? Yeah.
But again, I'm lucky I read those freaking books that were just like, number one, when you get a smartphone, turn off notifications. That's the most important thing you do if you want to be productive. Mm-hmm. Like, airplane mode is freedom. But when there were many nights where I didn't go to sleep on time, and I should have gone to sleep on time, but there's notifications, and it's like, oh, this is the yellow notification. That means it's from Bumble. That means some girl picked me.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, being accepted.
So even not getting it in real time, it was still like on your mind.
Yeah, I mean, so that's another thing of just notifications on your phone when you turn it on, and if there's like a list of like 50 or something like that, like if you go on a spree and you wake up the next day to it, good luck not checking that until you finished your work for the day.
Yeah.
You know? So
I can't imagine, like, it sounds like hell, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because then the thing is, like, if you get that many coming in, you're probably going to be reducing people down to the simplest elements because you got so much. You're like, I can't get through this list. Like,
Which is exactly what the mobile game developers did, in that you are just numbers. You are just revenue.
Yeah.
You know, it changes the way you look at people, all of this stuff. Wow, I've never made that connection before of like, you know, if I'm the Angry Birds guy and I'm checking the analytics, that is going to feel the same as getting billions of likes on Tinder.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it must be just as fun for the companies to be like, oh, we got 1 million more.
I mean, they have whole teams that are focused on those metrics.
Yeah.
And they got lots of acronyms. Yeah.
Getting scary.
Scary.
But you know what? The nice thing is we still have this.
Yeah, and I think the main difference between the mobile games that I have disdain for and the games I love is the intentionality. Like, I love a game where somebody had a vision and they're like, I want to bring this to life because I think it's cool.
Totally.
Maybe I'll make some money. Like, this is a product, but like the main thing is I have a cool idea and I want to make a world that someone can inhabit. A lot of these mobile games is just, well, how can we get someone addicted and take their money?
Yeah, and I'm not someone to stand on a mountaintop and be holier than thou in anything. I think you know, don't hate the player, hate the game is a very important statement for people to have. What I would hope, and I know this isn't gonna, I know what era I live in, and this isn't gonna be the case, but I would hope that people, and maybe I'm wrong. Terry, get to the point. I would hope people have more respect for a game like Breath of the Wild than they do for Candy Crush, and never equate the two. Mm-hmm. And don't equate the two because they can see, not necessarily, it's too much for me to ask you to see the effort that went into it, but it's not too much for me to ask to look at what a world was created for you, and did it fully embody you? Were you invested in the story? Did you like the way it felt in your hands? Did it transport you away? And is it something worthy of study? There we go. There are so many games that are worthy of study. I've watched the documentaries about them. It's my favorite thing to do on YouTube is watch long form documentary. But they warrant it. The path of Final Fantasy VI being developed on the Super Nintendo is so filled with intrigue and interest, and they had to work so hard. And, you know, that's not coming out of someone who's just trying to make a buck. That's someone who's trying to make an artistic piece that stands the test of time. So I just hope in my heart of hearts that people will not lose that. Yeah. They will not lose the difference between an artistic endeavor and a cash grab.
Yeah. And
both can exist.
They do exist, right? They do exist now, and I hope they continue to both exist. I think they will, because the thing is, people love games, and people can make games on their own. Like, it is easier than it's ever been to make your own video game.
Yeah.
And anyone with passion can do it for free.
it's also a testament to gaming itself in the landscape of things that we even have a discussion like this. Because this discussion is very similar to, you know, Taylor Swift versus, I don't know, who's great, Dylan? Who's like an artist that people really love, artistic, who's young?
Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Let me use it. Actually, she's too volatile. Let me use the thing because she writes her own songs. But okay, you got like a WAP. I won't disdain our audience by saying you have that song coming out in the same world where you have like a wildly interesting song by like a Billie Eilish or something like that, where same general age, catering to the same people, but one is definitely a sex sells type of thing, and the other is like, oh, there's some real thought in this. I like that both they're there.
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking the person who writes this song for cash either.
Right.
I like it, but I just hope we as a country, as a world, will always continue to appreciate things that are inspirational, things that go home with you, things that you think about for hours after, you know. But I don't know because
Well,
I just think of Netflix and big movies.
I think it's harder for people to get the unbroken amount of time to think about these big ideas. It's harder for people to think that long about one subject.
You know why? Because of notifications.
It's the notifications. Yeah. But
Gaming notifications stopped you from being great. That's very true.
I have a lot of arguments about that. Exactly that. Yeah. So, yeah. But there's the world is so broad right now. No matter what, awesome things are going to keep getting made.
Yeah.
Regardless of how dire it gets for some, you keep looking. There are people who care, who are passionate, who make cool stuff, and let's keep supporting them.
Yeah, and for every big fear about the argument, or that argument, for every big fear over the almighty algorithm, one thing I like to point out is the algorithm for young people right now favors Mr. Beast, a guy who became famous because he wanted to give money to, you know, people who were hard on times. And billions of people watch this kid who, by all standards of measure, wanted to do the right thing and wanted to be a good person. And the world responded by making him the #1 creator. So whenever you think of the algorithm as evil, look at some of the top creators and realize, well, that's kind of cool. That means enough people care about earnestness and doing corny things, but they're still the right thing to do. You know, I think you can have faith. You can have faith. Someone will find a way to make a freemium game that has a positive impact on the earth. I just know it.
Let's do it. Yeah.
You, me?
Yeah, we'll do it. No problem.
Tubby Talks.
Yeah. Wow.
What would your Tubby Talk freemium game be? And then we'll wrap up.
Oh, freemium. See, it's tough. Like, I've never thought about making a freemium game that just kind of keeps you going. I mean, I think actually tied into one of our earlier discussions would be tied to a working out, to something tied to exercise. That it's like, hey, you exercise, you get something for it, and you want to. That is something that you want to be compelling, right? You want somebody to be drawn. If you can make that interesting and addictive, not in a bad way. You don't want to overdo it, but something that gets people active.
How about in 20 years, we release a freemium game that's reverse, where we pay you to keep playing. That'll be our great charity thing of like, what about the reverse of freemium gaming? What about a game that pays you? So if you finish playing, you know, maybe you get an ice cream cone or something like that. And then eventually you get actual money for playing the game. It would have to be a charity because there's no way that this is a workable model. But maybe someday some benevolent billionaire will create the reverse freemium game, and that it'll be something that kids get addicted to and somehow makes them end up doing nice things. Maybe for every nice thing you do, you get $1.
Actually sounds like a Mr. Beast sort of app right there, yeah.
That's right. Well, we're just trying to get in the algorithm. Thank you, everybody, for watching this episode of Tubby Talk. If you have a child, don't let them play mobile freemium games. Also, if you have a parent, don't let them play freemium games. A public service announcement from the good guys here at Tubby Talk.
Yeah, that's right.
Also, we miss Steve. We'll see him on the next episode.
Yeah, definitely.
He's playing freemium games.
No! Save him!
YUNKJunk!